grievances be noted. I call the honourable member for Warrnambool.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to see you in the chair tonight. I rise tonight to talk about an incident which occurred a year and a half ago in my electorate. It was the Warrnambool telephone exchange fire which occurred on November the 22nd, 2012, and which caused significant harm and damage, not only to the exchange itself, but to the people in southwest Victoria. The outage affected about 100,000 people in southwest Victoria, a region covering approximately 67,340 square kilometres. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, the reason why I rise tonight to talk about this incident again, and I have talked about it previously in this place, is because RMIT, the university, and the Australian Communications Consumer Action Network have put together a consumer and social impact analysis of the Warrnambool exchange fire. It is a very important document. What the two authors, and I would like to mention them by name, Kay Schofield from RMIT, who has done an excellent job with this, and then also we have Dr Mark Gregory from ACAN, have put together this report looking at the impact that this telephone exchange fire had on the local community, and more importantly, making recommendations of how government, how business and how individuals should prepare themselves for such future outages should they occur. And let's not gild the lily here, Mr Deputy Speaker. What the South West experienced when their exchange went down was nothing short of a wake-up call for the rest of the Australian community of how reliant we are now on telecommunications. Basically, it shut down all the commerce in southwest Victoria. It shut down emergency services. It shut down people's ability to be able to make important life-changing phone calls. This was incredible and extraordinary in its reach and the impact that it had. And one of the things that we must see is that the rest of the Australian community take notes of this and puts in place the policies that are required to ensure that if this type of event occurs anywhere else in Australia, that communities are prepared for it this time, because the sad thing was southwest Victoria wasn't fully prepared for it when it occurred on November the 22nd in 2012. Even though it occurred in Warrnambool, to give you a sense of the disruption that it had, that morning I was meant to be doing a radio interview of my local ABC radio station at 7:20 from Hamilton. I could not do that radio interview because the ABC network could not function because of the telephone exchange fire. I then went in and had to go and see the podiatrist about an issue with my foot, and after having seen the podiatrist, I went to pay the account with my credit card. This was at 8:45. I could not pay that account with my credit card because all the FPOS was down in that business, and as I subsequently found out, in all the businesses, not only in Hamilton, in Camperdown, in Portland, in Warrnambool as well. And what it also impacted on was the ATM, so no one was able to get cash out. It literally brought the community to a standstill. So this is an important report. As Telstra noted in their review of this situation, there were 135 exchange services, 85 schools, 20 hospitals, 27 police stations, 92 fire stations and 14 SES services which were affected by the outage. The one remaining telecommunications service in the region was the Optus 3G mobile cellular network. And having spoken to Optus after the event, it was extraordinary that people so desperately in need of communicating, actually there was a rush on the Optus shop, and they had to go to Ballarat to start shipping in telecommunications equipment so that they could feed the consumer demand. That is how reliant we are now on our telecommunications network. The financial cost to the region was very hard to determine, but the state government thought it was close to about $1 million a day. Close to about $1 million a day was the financial impact. And any community cannot cope over a long period of time with that type of cost. And I must say, it was interesting to see how a regional community and smaller regional communities were able to cope with this. And it did make me think, if something like this, a similar event occurred in an urban scenario where there isn't the community networks which we fortunately have in regional and rural Australia, the impact could be twice as devastating. The report, which has been done by RMIT and ACAN, has some recommendations, but it also went and surveyed responses, and some key elements of those were that 94.6% of respondents suffered some inconvenience related to a business transaction. 69.8% were unable or found it difficult to make vital purchases such as food or fuel. 86.5% were unable to communicate with friends or family. 24% were unable to conduct business and had to shut down for some period of time. So businesses literally had to close. And over 60% felt that the outage had a negative impact on community life. The authors came up with 5 recommendations, and they are very good recommendations which are in the report, and because of time constraints I won't go into those. But it also importantly came up with some recommendations with regards to survival plans which other communities could learn from. So there is a telecommunications survival plan for individuals. There is a telecommunications survival plan for government, and there is a telecommunications survival plan for business. Now, these are just single pages, but they provide very important information for government, business and members of the community to consider if a telephone exchange or any other event causes a communication outage. Because as we found out in the southwest, the impact can be holistic and it can be way, way beyond what anyone would expect. So one of the things and one of the reasons why I want to table this report tonight is so that I can put on the record here in the House these plans, which I would encourage the government and others to make sure that communities are aware of. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, in summary, we should not underestimate in today's modern society the importance of telecommunications. It impacts every part of our lives, every part of the community's lives, every part of government's ability to be able to communicate with local communities, every part of how business transacts with its local communities. If there is damage to telecommunications network, none of us should underestimate that the impact that it will have onto us personally, but also on our communities. This report is an important document when it comes to considering the impact that the Warrnambool Exchange fire had on my local community. What I would ask is that the House take the time to read and consider this report and the implications of it, because it is wide-reaching and it could impact on any of us any of us in this House as we go about doing our duties as local members. Thank you. And I seek permission to table this report.
Is leave granted?